Hello, hello. Are we good to go? Are we live? I'm just having a check. If you guys are all seeing me, hearing me okay, let me know in the chat. Let me know as well where you're from. Let's see who's the furthest away from me right now. I know we've definitely got some people in here from Brisbane and Sydney, but how much further are we? Pam, aloha. Are you actually in Hawaii? Let's see. Guys, I'm just making sure we've got everything set up and sorted and all rocking and rolling okay. Areas, you might be watching me on my training site. You might be watching me live on Facebook. You might be watching me via YouTube. You might be watching me in all sorts of different places. So I'm going to have to keep on checking the chat across the multiple areas. But the good news is we're all here and we're all starting the Alkaline Weight Loss Blueprint training. 3 different lessons across 3 different days. Now, I have got a link for the Facebook guys and for you guys that have jumped in on YouTube to be able to, here we go, I'll just pop that in. If you have not registered for these lessons, you can follow that link and you can register for the lessons so that you get all 3 lessons, you get the alerts when they come up, and you'll get all the replays and all of the show notes and everything else. So let's get started. I'm going to mute myself on my, I can hear myself talking to myself. Good morning to all of you. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Marrakesh. Wow, Aisha, fantastic to have you here. Sherry in Santa Barbara, Jacqueline in Donegal. Darlene, so lovely to have you here. Absolutely awesome. Um, Guys, I'm just buzzing to deliver this to you. It's been, let's just say, 20 years in the making. I've been thinking about planning, talking to Tanya and the kids when they'll listen about I should put together a proper formalized session training actually about weight loss. I've obviously been teaching my students, my members, everyone in my programs about losing weight for the whole 20 years. And some of you on this session I know already have lost a bunch of weight following my plans, but I've never put it together into a formal training. So here we are, we're starting now. 3 lessons today, tomorrow, and the next day. For us in Australia, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. For the rest of you, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Same time every day. After the session finishes, we will have the replays go out with all of the show notes. So for all of the studies that I mention, any products that I mention, any supplements, any further reading, it will all come to you via email after we finish. But you have to make sure you have registered for these sessions in order to get those emails. Otherwise, I don't know who you are. Who is a bit excited about this? I am definitely a bit excited about it. I've got my little notes here. I've just got some bullet points. We're going to be freewheeling. We're going to be doing Q&A after each session. If you've got any questions and it's pertinent to what we're talking about in that moment, feel free to ask in the chat. Otherwise, once we've finished the training, look at that, Sherry, 50 pounds lost. After we finish the formal teaching part of the training, we're going to go into a Q&A, which is going to be a bunch of fun. And that Q&A will last as long as we need to go to make sure that every single one of your questions is answered. So, for you guys who don't know who I am, I'm Ross Richard. I've been doing this teaching how to live alkaline and get results through my version of the alkaline lifestyle for almost 20 years, or a couple of months off 20 years. So I'm just going to say 20 years. I'm the author of the best-selling Alkaline Reset Cleanse book. You can see up there, I've got my next book coming out next year called The Alkaline Life, with the wonderful Hay House people. So make sure you all go and grab a copy of that as soon as I start emailing you about it. I run a program called the Alkaline Base Camp, which is a monthly membership to get everybody living alkaline and making it as easy to do as possible. And I've been featured in magazines and all those things all over the world for the last 20 years. You can trust me because I know what I'm talking about. I spend hours and hours every week in the science, in the literature. I've been living it in my own life for 20 years. 24 years. I've been coaching it for 20 years. There's a bunch of you that are in my Alkaline Base Camp in the chat. Feel free to back me up now, guys. Come on. Feel free to back me up. Um, and what I do is different. The way I teach is different. How you're going to learn about weight loss and the concepts around why your body is gaining weight and the foundations as to why your body is going to drop the weight are very, very different to what you've heard before. That I can assure you. Now, I do want to see. I did have just a couple of slides, but I don't. They're not really important. I might just not worry about them today. Um, just to show you some of the studies and some of the literature around living alkaline and losing weight. I can share those with you afterwards. It's not essential that we run through them live on the session, but I do want you to know because a lot of people, especially for you new guys who have come in through a link via Facebook randomly, and maybe don't know me and don't know what I do want to make sure all of you guys know that everything I teach, I'm trying not to touch my desk and wobble the camera too much. Everything I teach, everything, I'd be slamming the desk right now, making a point. I will never tell you to do something and I will never teach you a concept that hasn't been proven in the literature. Now, there will be a lot of people, a lot of detractors. There's people out there that go, oh, the alkaline diet, it's a fad, it's this, it's that. It's just ridiculous that in this day and age, there's people saying there's no science behind it. There's no studies to back it up because there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And there's more coming out every month, every month. A bunch of the studies that I'm going to be sending you have all been published in 23, 22, 21 in the last couple of years. And they show without question that diet induced acidosis, eating too many dietary foods, metabolic acidosis caused by diet is responsible for everything that we're talking about today and a whole load of other stuff as well. I'm absolutely happy to go deep into the literature in the Q&A as well, if that's what you want. But yeah, everything that we're about to learn today is absolutely, absolutely rooted in the literature. So a few things that I want to cover today, and I want to leave you today with some actions that you can go away with and implement tonight and tomorrow. So when we come back to lesson 2, the ball is already rolling. One of the things that's really important to me is making everything that I teach really actionable and really doable and mostly really realistic. Like I think that's my British and then Australian sort of heritage sort of coming through. But I want to make it really realistic, really achievable, and actually doable in your life. That's really, really important to everything I teach, and especially when it comes to weight loss. Thank you, James. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Catherine. It's really, really frustrating to me when I see people are being given all of the right information, but they're given it like drinking from the fire hose. So I want you to really just stick with the process. I'm laughing because that's what the Arsenal manager always says, and I don't like Arsenal. For any of you that follow football, trust the process. What you're going to learn today is all about setting the foundation, and we're going to get started with some simple steps today. Tomorrow, we're going to build on that, and then there's going to be a lot more steps for you to follow in there. In day 3, we're going to get really into the sort of nitty gritty dirt and nuts and bolts of it so that when you leave, you understand exactly what the plan and the process is for you, not for the general mass public, but for you specifically. So I really want to get into today talking to begin with about the foundation of weight loss. So the vast majority of you, and I know that you guys may have experienced this, if you've been on a weight loss journey before, if you've tried to lose weight before, and you're thinking about going into another weight loss diet now, it did for me just then. It makes you tighten up. It makes you feel quite daunted and quite stressed, and it makes you feel your chest tightens, and you feel like I really don't want to do this, but I have to start now because this thing is coming up. I can't put it off any longer because I can't feel this way any longer. And this thing, I've got this goal, this holiday, there's a wedding, there's a party, there's an event. So I have to start now. I can't keep putting it off. That's not how you should feel about your body and your lifestyle and how you interact with your body. Like, I really want you guys to see, reconnect the concept of you and your body as one team. Like, we often think of ourselves as sort of separate, and we talk about our body in a way that is like we're saying, oh, I don't like my body. My stupid body does this. Oh, all I have to do is look at a thing and my body puts on weight. I want you to reconnect and start to see yourself as being on the same team again, and see this journey as about nourishing and supporting and reintegrating with your body and seeing it back as a whole. Because ultimately, the results that you are going to get are going to come from understanding what your body actually needs and then giving it what it needs. They're not going to come from going, well, what my body needs is to be hungry and not eat much food for the next 2 weeks. And hopefully that way I'll just starve out a bunch of weight off my body. That's not how your body works. It's not what your body wants, and it's not how you're going to get success. Okay. I want you to now, all of you, this is, like I said, this is an interactive session. What I want you guys to do now in the chat box is, if you have got weight loss as a goal, which I believe being late is fine, no worries in the comments there. Sheila, is that the correct pronunciation? That was brave of me to go with traditional Irish uh, name, Sheila. That's no problem. But what I want you to do in the chat box is, if weight is one of your goals, which I'm assuming it is if you're here, I want you to let me know in the chat if you have got any other health challenge or any other health goal. Let me know. Apart from weight, it could be as simple as fatigue. It could be digestion. It could be. You let me know in the chat. I think there's a little bit of a delay, which will give me a chance to just do something with my technical notes while you guys fill that in and have some, which is a delicious lemon tea this morning. Basic, going old school. All right, we've got a few coming in. Only a couple of you. Come on, guys, get interactive on this session. That's a bit better. Osteoarthritis, insane, ME, psoriasis, asthma, GERD, arthritis, thyroid issues, diabetes. This is the thing, okay? This is really important. Weight, excess weight, is the manifestation of an imbalance that is occurring within your body. Excess weight is rarely the actual physical problem itself. It's the manifestation of the imbalance that's occurring within your body. We have to get to the root cause as to why your body is developing excess fat cells, generally visceral fat cells, sometimes subcutaneous fat cells, but why your body is creating these fat cells, what is causing that to happen for you, what your reason is, what your imbalance is that's causing that for you. And then when we know that, we can work on that. We can nourish your body in the specific ways to undo that imbalance, and restore that balance. We're going to be getting into that in bucket loads during these 3 sessions, particularly lessons 1 and 2. But look at your body through that particular lens. Like, look at some of these brain fog, thyroid. We've got reflux, allergies, blood sugar, cholesterol levels, memory fog, inability to focus. These are the things that your body needs to have healed. And we look at why they've occurred. When we heal that, the weight will start to be lifted. Think of your body as being either in what I call the starvation mode, or the restricted mode, or the abundance mode, right? When you are in that starvation mode, that restriction mode, your body is generating fat cells, it's holding on to fat cells for dear life, because it believes there's stress. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be physiological. There is stress occurring in your body, and it is believing that you need to plan for the future where food or resources may be scarce. When your body is in That mode, you are going to generate as much fat in your body as possible, and you're going to hold on to it for dear life. You are not going to let it go. When you switch to this abundant mode, which is where you are nourishing your body, you're hydrating properly, you're looking after your emotional well-being, and you're doing all of those things as well as your physiological well-being. When you're in that abundance mode, it sends the message to your body: hang on, I don't need to hold on to this fat anymore. I don't need to create more fat. Fat is your body's most perfect source of energy, right? So when your body feels like it needs to prepare for the famine, it is going to create fat and hold on to fat. The misconception, and I understand it, it's a bit of a fuzzy dotted line theory, but it makes kind of sense, is that when we eat fat, it just sticks to our body. That's not how it works. Dietary fats, which we're going to get into a lot tomorrow, dietary fats are not a cause of weight gain. Dietary fats are not the cause of weight gain. You're getting some interesting lights coming through my window as the sun comes up here in Queensland. Dietary fats are not a cause of weight gain. Please, 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 please believe me when I say that. The studies on this are ultra conclusive. Dietary fats do not cause you to gain fat on your body. Acidic, pro-inflammatory processed foods cause these imbalances, of which certain fats are those things: trans fats, partially hydrogenated fats, cheap vegetable oil fats. Good fats are a different type of food and they don't cause this. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too early. We're going to get onto fats tomorrow. When we are wanting to lose weight, we have to take this big picture view of healing and restoring balance to the body, not the view that we need to starve the fat out of the body. Okay, are you with me on that? I'm going to have some water. Are you with me on that? Restricting and depriving yourself, eating less, feeling hungry, counting calories, being stressed out about food, feeling guilty every time you eat something you weren't supposed to eat. This is not an environment for losing weight. This is not a plan. This is not a headspace. Thinking it will be fine because I'll just use my willpower. That isn't a plan. Willpower isn't a plan. We have to get our heads around this concept that the weight is coming on because of an imbalance in the body, and to lose the weight, we have to heal that. Inherent to all of this is the concept that when your body is under stress, when your body is out of balance, it will create visceral fat cells. When there is inflammation, your body will create visceral fat cells. When you flood your liver with too much sugar, particularly fructose, and I'm not talking about eating some blueberries, I'm talking about high fructose corn syrup, I'm talking about sucrose. When you flood your body with these into the liver, it will create inflammation. It will disturb your endocrine system. It will your digestive system. These toxins will your body to create visceral fat. We are going to go really, really deep on what the main buckets of these imbalances are so that you can identify yourself and work on that plan for you to hit those. For most people, it's usually a combination, but there is always a dominant one, and you'll be able to locate yourself and identify which one is yours, and we'll be able to heal that. But we don't want to start there. We want to start with calories. Who here has ever been on a calorie restriction diet or counted calories or thought, oh, should I have let me go back and see how many calories? Let me know. Have all of my family has. I grew up like seeing my mum getting up at the crack of dawn, bless her, thinking I'll get up before everybody else and sit in the living room with her in Fonda workout things and going on Weight Watchers and all of that stuff. Who in the UK used to do Mr. Motivator? Remember that guy? Mr. Motivator, what a legend. Um, but this is the thing, isn't it? This is the accepted complete picture. You want to lose weight, you've got to count calories. Thanks, Adele. You've got to count calories. How long have we been doing this? Since the 60s? We've been counting calories for as long as weight has been an issue in the developed world, right? Since the invention of ultra processed food and the switch from raw ingredients to processed ingredients. And dare I say it, since the switch from fat is the problem, which masks the explosion of sugar in the diet. So let's say since the 60s and 70s, we've been counting calories. The studies show us, and I will send you these studies, that 99% calorie restrictive dieting results within a 3-year period in the dieter being back at their original weight or worse. They do not work. They do not work. You can get some temporary results, and I'll explain why that can happen in just a minute, but they do not work. They do not lead to sustained weight loss. So let's dig into that a little bit. How are you guys going? Is the stream okay for you guys? I'm just checking. Yeah, the broadband here is astronomically fast. So hopefully it'll come good at the moment for anyone where it's breaking up. So just looking for a moment at what a calorie is. A calorie is literally a measure. It's a unit of energy, like an ounce or a centimeter or a kilometer or a mile. It's a unit of energy. It's a measurement. It's not a thing. It's not a physical thing. I'm getting distracted by the people saying that it's breaking up. I can't get distracted by this because I know for a lot of people it isn't breaking up. Do you guys need me to refresh your mind? Let's see. All right, that's just refreshed our mind, so hopefully that's okay now. A calorie is a measure of a unit of energy. How your body chooses to use that energy could be myriad of different ways. The presumption that all of this energy is used simply to put weight on your body is bizarre. Counting calories doesn't work, and it also leads to people making really unusual food choices. It leads to people making or getting into a headspace where food is seen as the enemy. It leads people to making food choices where calories are the only important metric, not the nutrient content or the nutrient density of the food. It leads to feeling hungry and stressed and fed up and like you can't keep going. And it also leads to the tiny little bit of willpower that we have been evolved, our brain has evolved with, being used up within the first hour of the day. So if willpower is your strategy, it's gone. There's 3 or 4 reasons why calories in versus calories out for me is a flawed process for trying to lose weight. And I'm going to run through them with you because I desperately, desperately want you guys to get on board with why counting calories is no longer the option. And I'm pushing down on this concept a little bit, I'm pressing this button a little bit harder because I know from experience there's people that have been in my membership, that have been in other coaching programs with me before where they've gone, yeah, alkaline, love it, green juice, yep, gonna, I'm gonna have my salads and I'm gonna make all these, but yeah, no, I'm still doing calories. I'm not getting those alarms. Similar with fat, I have people that go, yeah, I love everything you're saying. Yeah, totally makes sense. But yeah, I'm not going to eat fat. That'll make me fat. And it's like, no, you've got to believe me. And I know we've been conditioned for so many decades to think that is the bad thing. Calories need to be restricted. So let's talk about calories now. So calories in versus calories out. I'm taking a little poll in the chat right now and seeing, I'm assuming, no, Martin, me and Martin are here, we're the guys. So I will include the male data on this as well, but it's pretty much just me and Martin, I think, that the only fellas on the call. So calories in versus calories out. You're basically, for a female, you're told if you eat less than 2,000 calories a day, you will lose weight. If you're a guy, if you eat less than 500 calories a day, you'll lose weight, right? So the first flaw in this concept is that there's this presumption that anything over that 2,000 or 2,500 calories that you eat is all automatically just all going to be used up to create extra fat on your body. It's just going to turn into fat. This calorie, it's like saying this centimeter is going to turn into some road. This uh, ounce is going to turn into some liquid. A calorie can't turn into anything, but it presumes that this arbitrary measure of 2,000 calories for a female, 2,500 for a man, anything you eat over that is going to be used to make extra fat on your body, which is absurd. When you think of all the things that the body uses energy for, like bone production, heat production, metabolism regulation, hormonal regulation, protein synthesis, liver and kidney detoxification, breathing, powering your brain, it's crazy to think that all of that excess, whenever there's an excess of energy, is used solely and exclusively to produce fat cells. This doesn't make sense. This is bizarre. When there's so many important processes and things happening in your body at any given moment, to presume that the excess of calories is going to be used for that, and that exclusively, is bizarre. Not only is there the fact that our weight is highly influenced by our endocrine system, by our hormones, things like leptin, ghrelin, adiponectin, insulin, so many of our hormones, by the glands and organs of our endocrine system, like our thyroid, our adrenals, the gut, pancreas, our bones. These things are so influential on the body's decision, for want of a better word, on whether to create fat cells, release fat cells, use stored fat for energy, store it for later energy. These things are so influential over the amount of fat that our body is carrying. It just seems bizarre to think that it is indiscriminately the amount of calories we eat. And it completely ignores the nutritional composition of the food as well, and the effect that the food has on the body. So eating 500 calories of spinach versus eating 500 calories of pizza, it's suggesting that the energy created by those is used completely the same regardless. Julie, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. If we eat 500 extra calories today, who or what is determining whether that extra 500 calories is going to be used to create extra bowel movements, to build new bone matter, to support your liver, to detoxify some toxin or chemical that you've been exposed to in the air that day, to process the protein that would be used to ignite and utilize some of that fat that's stored for energy. But no, calories in versus calories out. Programs like Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or just you going, I need to eat 1,500 calories today, not 2,000, isn't making that decision how that energy is used. That's flaw number one, and that's not even the most important one. The second flaw, which is really, this blew my mind, and it blew my dear old mum's mind as well when I showed her these studies. There's an assumption that calories in and calories out operate independently. Okay, again, if you lower the calories in, the calories out will stay stable, 2,000, independent of exercise. Exercise influences that as well. But you lower the calories in, calories out is stable every day, so they're always in a you will lose weight. This isn't true. There's research that have shown this. When you lower your calories out after a period of about 2 to 3 weeks, your body will down regulate. Sorry, when you lower your calories in, your body will down regulate your calories out to match it. Think back to the first thing I said: starvation mode, abundance mode. When you lower your calories in over a period of 2 to 3 weeks, your body will lower the calories burnt through your general processes and metabolism. It will match. So you will be going, oh, this is great. I'm only eating 1,500 calories a day. You might lose a little bit of weight over those 2 to 3 weeks, not necessarily body fat, but you'll lose a bit of weight over those 2 to 3 weeks, and then you plateau, and then you have to do something different, like exercise more or restrict your calories even more, and then lose a little bit more, and then you'll plateau. If this sounds familiar, my mum's face when I told her this, I wish I'd have taken a picture. So studies, again, I'll send you all the studies. This one, that's my notes here: human vitality and efficiency under prolonged restricted diet, from the Carnegie Institute in Washington. The volunteers consumed diets of 14 to 2,100 calories a day, which was a variation of 30% from their usual intake. Over a short period of time, the participants experienced a 30% drop in the total expenditure of calories as well. They lowered their calories in by 30%, and over a short period of time, their calories out dropped by 30% to match it. Your body will switch off processes that aren't 100%, life death processes. It will slow metabolism. Your liver is incredibly efficient at ramping up and scaling down as it needs to. Loads and loads of processes in the body can be easily down-regulated for short periods of time without it causing you a, let's say, life-threatening or noticeable impact. You might just feel more tired, your skin might break out more, you might feel less rested after your workouts might become less efficient, and it might take longer to recover. You might ache and have pains a little bit. All of these things that we just don't even really notice or think about. Is your body coping with its internal environment, things going on in there that are stressful to it, and dealing with it? So I'm going to digress a little bit and give you the context of this diet-induced acidosis as an example of how this can occur and how this happens. It will make sense. So in the concept of acidity, which is important, is one of the reasons why you're here with me particularly, and not listening to someone else right now talking about weight. When you eat acidic foods over and over and over again, and I apologise to some of my ABC members because they've heard me talk about this often. When you eat, I never repeat the fundamentals too often. When you eat lots and lots of acidic food, when you are bombarding your body with acidity, the critics will say, but your body's got these systems and processes to balance it. It doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about it. It's true. That's 100% true. Your body does have a series of systems that it goes through, each with varying degrees of stress that it causes to implement in order to buffer excess acidity and keep your blood pH slightly alkaline. And this is what the critics will tell you. They'll say your body will keep your pH alkaline regardless of what you eat. Absolutely true. It's the stress caused from balancing it back from acidic to alkaline, which is the problem. That's where the stress occurs. So I heard you mention the term diet-induced acidity, also often called chronic metabolic acidity, often also called uh, chronic dietary acid load. These are all terms in the scientific community to basically say an acidic diet. So diet-induced acidosis, this chronic metabolic acidosis, isn't your blood pH becoming and staying acidic, it's your blood pH being alkaline but far from optimal. So what we've got is an ideal pH range, which is about around pH 7.365. Diet-induced acidity is this range below it. So when you're eating things like soda and chips and sugar and gluten and processed meats and pizzas and all those sorts of things, your blood pH goes way down. Your body will buffer it back up, but this process of buffering it back up is so stressful that it will get it somewhere here in this range. And it's within this range. This is called diet induced acidity. This is where trouble happens. This is where your body is stressed and breaking down and falling to pieces. Now, that may manifest in 2 months, it may manifest in 20 years. But this is the zone where your body is under stress and bad things are happening. We'll get into loads of examples. We'll get into loads of examples that relate specifically to weight. Where we're talking about in this second floor, you lower calories right down and it comes down to match it. This is a stressful place for your body to be, particularly if you're focusing on foods that are not calorie dense as the primary driver of your food choices, rather than foods that are nutrient dense as the primary driver. Does that make sense? So dozens of studies on this. You lower calories, your calories out will lower as well. Just that one thing, you go, this isn't going to work. Dropping calories isn't going to work. So flaw number 3 is we've got control somehow over how much fat our body stores. So we can specifically lower our calories, and that will mean that our bodies will lower our fat reserves. For at least a decade and a half, we've known now of the hormones leptin and ghrelin. Okay, our hunger hormones. We're going to talk about these a lot tomorrow. Our hunger hormones. These hormones, along with other hormones produced by our thyroid, our adrenals, our hypothalamus, our sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, our stomach, our pancreas, our intestines, even within the bone. These hormones in your endocrine system, not any one, but all of them as a whole, are regulating how much fat your body is storing and when we use it. Adiponectin. If you don't have enough adiponectin circulating, your body won't get the trigger to use fat for fuel. I did, Sherry. I said focus on eating foods that are nutrient dense. And Mita, absolutely. We'll get into that a lot in just a bit. These hormones control when you're hungry, when you get full, how much fat you store, how much fat you use. None of these are being regulated by calories as a measure. None of them. You can drop as many calories as you like. But if you have a hormonal situation where you are always hungry, you never feel full. If your blood sugar is constantly dropping, plummeting to these depths that's making you just crave carbohydrates and crave simple sugars. If you have a lack of adiponectin, if you've got a sluggish thyroid, if your adrenals are overworked, what on earth has calories got to do with this? Now, it's not to say calories is a completely pointless measure for everything. Calories is a useful measure, and it does have a tiny piece of puzzle to play here, and it can be used as one of dozens of metrics if you really want to get into all of those metrics. However, and I'm just gonna, yeah, I was just looking at how far back the delay was for you guys. However, it is absolutely nowhere near the most important thing to be focusing on. You need to forget about calories. We haven't even talked about the whole calorie is a calorie thing. That as long as you get less than 2,000 or Martin, 2,500 calories, as long as you get less than that, it's fine. Doesn't matter what you eat. Like if you had a breakfast of, for let's say for Martin, if Martin had a breakfast that was, soda, bagels with jelly, as you guys call it, jam. So the rest of us, are they different things? Jelly and jam? I don't know. Or ice cream or whatever for breakfast, and that was 2,000 calories, and then he basically just starved himself for the rest of the day. That's not going to be useful. That's not, it's not going to help. It's not going to cause a significant and long-term weight loss, and it's going to cause you so many other health issues along the way. Okay, if you're a female and you eat, you have 1,800 calories a day, so theoretically you're losing weight, but those 1,800 calories are coming from, pizza and chips and bacon, and you're just not going to get there, are you? Assuming that the calories from a soda are the same as the calories from a green juice or a green smoothie. Like, let's say you made a green smoothie and it had half an avocado in it. That's going to have calories in it. That's a calorie dense food. But assuming that the calories from a soda and the calories from having a smoothie made from avocado and cucumber and bell pepper and spinach and almond milk and, all of these beautiful nutrients, those two things are going to equally hinder or help weight loss. It makes no sense. I want you guys to really, really, really take this on board. Please, as I have a sip and we get into part 2 of lesson 1, which is my favorite bit, let me know in the chat if this is all making sense to you so far. And whoever clicked the little love heart, I love you too. How are we going? All right, let's look in some of these comments. Thank you, Lorna. I think it makes sense. And Meredith, thank you as well. Austin, lovely. Martin, that's a great part of the world to be in. Sounding good in New York. How else are we going? Gosh, some of the comments from you guys about your prior weight loss journeys. Catherine, we're going to get on top of all of that. Absolutely. All right, so Stan's come through. Gosh, the delay on this is longer than I was expecting, but yes, good, makes sense, excellent. Doris, thank you. Pam, Martin, Christine, brilliant. All right, so this is where it starts to get exciting. Now, I hope you're excited, number 1, that you don't have to count calories anymore. Whew. I hope you're excited, number 2, that you can focus on loving and nourishing and reconnecting with your body, and that's going to be the path to long-term sustainable weight loss. Whew, that's awesome too. Part 3, or happy reason number 3, is we are now going to get into what I consider to be the 4 most prevalent imbalances that cause weight gain for the vast majority of people. Now, there's more than this. There are more than this. Of course, there's more than this. But these are the 4 main ones. And most people fall into one or a combination of these 4 buckets. And frankly, the other buckets are littler buckets that also fit into these 4 categories as well. These are what I call the 4 weight gain paths. So these are the stresses. These are the 4 imbalances that lead to weight gain for most people. When you identify, like I said earlier, as to which one of these is most that you fit into, the solution becomes really, really simple. The solution becomes really clear. So your plan becomes clear, because I don't want any of you going into your next weight loss journey, which will be your last weight loss journey, if you stick with me, without a clear plan, just thinking, I'm going to eat well and I'm going to be all alkaline and my willpower will take care of the rest of it, because that's not going to work. If we get time today, we'll talk about willpower in a bit of depth. We might do that tomorrow, because I'm already sensing it's 43 minutes in and we've got a bit to get through. So these are the 4 biggest weight gain paths. The first one, hormonal, the hormonal cause of weight gain. This is massive, and it's so underappreciated out there in the weight loss world. It's probably the most ignored, but my biggest contributor. Nobody's talking about it when it comes to weight. Literally I might jump around a little bit on this one, because I do get a bit overexcited when I talk about this. But I'm going to talk about it in reference to your pH again. So Martin, you'll like this. Martin, just as a little a straw poll, Are you on? Are you heard of me before you started listening to this? Just because it's, I know that you're watching it through Facebook, so it's just interesting to me if I've got people on here that all of this is brand new to. Because I know I've got people on here like Barbara and Andrea and Sidel and who else is on here? Pam and Jean that have been with me for ages. Just as a little bit of research for myself. All right. So I'm going to jump into one quick example now about the hormonal causes of weight imbalance because it relates so specifically to your pH. And then I'm going to look at a few others as well because they will be quite eye-opening and they again will form the foundation of what you're going to do. So let's talk about the adrenals just for a second. So adrenal glands, responsible for so much. We think of them as our fight or flight. We think of them in terms of adrenaline, obviously, and we think of them in terms of cortisol. Now, cortisol is a really, really important, essential hormone when it comes to your weight. It forms part of the circadian rhythms and interacts with the your release of cortisol, release of insulin, and a few other hormones that sort of interact throughout the day. Sleep, we're going to talk about tomorrow. Really, really, really important. That's going to be an awesome bit. But your cortisol. So when you wake up in the morning, you want a bit of cortisol. It's what wakes you up. It's what triggers to your body. When your body senses the sunlight hitting your eyes, it triggers the release of cortisol. That then triggers the release of a cascade of other hormones, including insulin, which balancing your blood sugar, but also it triggers for your metabolism to start firing up, for your liver and kidneys to end the overnight detoxification pathways that also detoxify the fluids in the cerebral fluids that are detoxifying your brain, and it wakes you up. Cortisol, really important. What we don't want is long-term elevated cortisol. We want a spike in the morning, then we want it to drop. Studies, only relatively recently we have discovered this. Studies around 2009, 2011, 2016, 3 really fantastic studies, really highlighting not just the interaction between your blood pH and cortisol, but then the long-term impacts of that. So when we're talking about losing weight, this could be you. For a lot of you, this could be you. This could be your weight gain path. When you're eating those acidic foods, you're putting yourself into that state of diet-induced acidosis. When you're in that zone, this causes stress in the body and it causes your adrenals to release cortisol. When your body is chronically releasing cortisol, when you've got those chronically elevated levels of cortisol circulating in your body, a number of deleterious things happen. A number of imbalance get triggered by this. But when it comes to gaining weight and not being able to lose weight, adrenal fatigue is massive. The chronic overproduction of cortisol day in, day out causes your adrenals to get massively fatigued. When you're in a state of adrenal fatigue, when you're in the state of cortisol, your stress hormone being produced constantly, do you think this is going to put you into that starvation mode or that abundance mode? Of course, it's going to put you into that starvation mode. We talked about right at the top of the session, when your body is under that stress and it's going, I need to create fat cells and hold on to them for dear life. Chronically producing cortisol, your stress hormone, putting you constantly into fight or flight mode. This is the perfect environment for your body needing to create fat cells and desperately wanting to hold on to them. If you are someone, and I'm not going to name names because I know one of you is on this call, for sure. If you are someone that feels like they're doing everything right, I'm eating so well, I'm exercising, I'm doing everything right, but I'm just not losing weight no matter what, could this be the reason? And this is just one part of one bucket. Diet-induced acidosis causes chronically elevated cortisol. You are not going to be able to lose weight, and you are certainly not going to be able to sustainably lose weight until you heal that. Sorry, I banged the desk, got a bit passionate, made the screen wobble. I apologize. If you are someone who is concerned or has had the experience before of working really hard, losing the weight, and then it all comes back on again with interest, this is because you haven't healed this part of your body. Your adrenals are still stressed. Your diet may still be acidic. So as soon as you add the calories back in, and let's not forget, it takes a few weeks for your body to upregulate your calorie output as well. It will come back quick, and it will come back with interest. And this is just one example, your adrenals, and it's coming directly from diet-induced acidosis. Insulin. Insulin, massive. Have any of you guys on the call got a recognized concern around insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes? This needs to be healed. We have worked with so many people over the years to reverse type 2 diabetes, reverse insulin resistance. It is actually quite simple and straightforward. And the good news is that it is indisputably, even in the the GP medical professional community, it is absolutely 100% a diet and lifestyle intervention that's required for type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. And we've had success with people hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times over the last 20 years. Living Alkaline heals this. With insulin, insulin controls so many processes when it comes to gaining weight and losing weight. And when you're eating an acidic diet full of sugar, I know that you guys are probably, sugar, connect it, blood sugar, got it. Gluten actually spikes your blood sugar as much as, if not more than sugar. There's a particular protein compound in gluten called amylopectin A. You don't need to remember that name. That spikes blood sugar as much as sucrose, fructose, even high fructose corn syrup levels of fructose. Gluten spikes your blood sugar just as much. Now, a lot of people, when they go onto a classic, typical mainstream weight loss diet, let's think, in your Sunday newspaper supplement, you get your healthy living thing, and it's like, lose belly fat in time for summer or something like that. And they go, here's what you eat on Monday. And it's like, start the day with a glass of orange juice, some low-fat yogurt, and some wholemeal toast with low-fat spread. And it's like, where do we even start with this? Like, masses of fructose from the orange juice. That fructose hitting your liver that quickly, like liquid, is going to cause a ton of uric acid to be formed. It's going to trigger that cortisol. It's going to create a ton of inflammation when the liver processes it. When the liver processes loads of fructose, it also interacts with the ghrelin and the leptin and gets those all mixed up. And it also sends your blood sugar crazy, of course. And then, the low-fat yogurt. What do they replace the fat with in yogurt to make it still taste good? Sugar, even more of it there. But at least we've got the whole grain toast, because whole grain's good for you, right? No, it contains gluten. It's as bad as white, the whitest of white cheap breads. It's as bad, spiking your blood sugar as well, among other things, of course. And the low-fat spreads, the margarines, they're the worst thing humankind has created in a spreadable form. This level of the spiking of blood sugar, the pancreas needing to create the insulin to mop it all up, the spiking of uric acid, the messing with your hunger hormones, all of these things together are absolutely devastating for your weight loss journey. But we keep doing it, you're going to get insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, obviously, is when You keep spiking your insulin, and your body gets less and less effective. It gets less and less effective at doing its job. It gets less receptive. You need to produce more, and it keeps going in a vicious cycle. So insulin resistance is both a cause and a symptom of excess weight. So when your body has got chronically elevated insulin levels, you're going to rapidly gain visceral fat cells around your vital organs. You're going to rapidly create subcutaneous fat cells around your belly and around your thighs and your butt. And this is because one of the main function of insulin is to tell fat cells to store fat and hold on to the fat that they're already carrying. The second thing is high insulin levels creates a massive inflammation. Now we're going to get onto inflammation in a little bit because it's one of the other paths. But when you're constantly spiking insulin, you're constantly spiking inflammation, and inflammation as itself then signals to the fat cells to become little inflammation factories of their own that creates more inflammatory cytokines and inflammatory markers that it spirals out of control really quickly. This is just insulin. I mean, we've literally only talked about cortisol and insulin. We haven't really gone deep on leptin and ghrelin yet. So let's touch on those. They're really important. Leptin and ghrelin are the signaling hormones that tell you I'm hungry and then tell you I'm full. If you've got too much leptin and not enough ghrelin, you're going to always be hungry and you're never going to be full. Do you think this might have some level of impact on whether someone would gain weight or not? This isn't about calories. This is about hormones. Okay, so ghrelin is the true hunger hormone. We call both of them the hunger hormones. Ghrelin is the true hunger hormone. This is the one that tells your body, tells your brain that you're hungry, you need to eat too much, and you're going to eat more than you need. Leptin is the satiety hormone, or they call the starvation hormone. It's the one that tells you when you're full and you don't need to eat anymore. So too little of the leptin, you're just going to keep eating and eating and eating. Now, there's an interesting concept that I find interesting. We've only recently discovered leptin in particular. And you want leptin floating around your body. Leptin is created in the fat cells. So you would think if you've got lots of fat cells, you're going to have lots of leptin. The pharmaceutical industry certainly thought, oh, we need more leptin. Brilliant. Let's create a leptin pill. That will fix it. And you'd think, yeah, that'd fix it. And so the pharmaceutical industry is like, this is multiple trillions of revenue here. However, as we discovered more about leptin, we discovered that fat cells actually block the reception, block the signaling. They create what's called leptin resistance. So if there's too many fat cells, too much fat on the body, your body cannot receive the signal of leptin. This is a cruel twist of nature. This is a flaw in our genetic makeup, but we didn't evolve to have lots of fat on our body. We didn't evolve to be eating high fructose corn syrup and highly ultra processed foods. So in order for our brains to receive the signal of leptin, we need to have less fat on our body, which is so unkind because it's like going, in order to earn loads of money from interest in the bank, we need to have loads of money in the bank. It's like, okay, well, can I have loads of money in the bank then, please? No. Leptin isn't going to be helpful to you until the fat cells are brought right down. The good news is, this is where we're laying the foundation, because if you lose weight in the right way, in the ways that we're talking about across these 3 lessons, you will be healing the endocrine system and you will be losing fat cells, not just body weight, liquids, muscle mass, those types of things. And as you do that, your body will become more able to receive the signaling of the leptin, and it's going to become 10 times easier to keep that weight off. This is just one pathway towards that. So apologies, as I move forward and get excited, it puts that sunlight right on my face. All right, you guys still there? Are you still with me? I get nervous when the chat goes quiet that the broadcast has got cut off. But you can see where I'm heading with all of this. An acidic, inflammatory, standard Western diet of grains, sugar, gluten, ultra-processed food, toxins, and so on will lead quickly to the situation where you've got too much ghrelin, not enough leptin, you're always hungry, you're never full, and that's going to make things tricky. Now, you remember I said at the start of this session, if you've tried to lose weight before and you've found it hard, it is not your fault. If you've ever tried to lose weight doing the old conventional way of calorie counting and Weight Watchers and those sort of things, it is not your fault. You haven't been given the information that you need to do this properly. The industry, the packaged food industry is set up to keep you dieting, to keep you on that mission. It doesn't want you to succeed. Okay, you have to get back to nature, and you have to get back to a situation where you're nourishing your body with those alkaline, lovely, nutrient-dense foods. The last hormone we just mentioned quickly because I mentioned it earlier, adiponectin. Very rarely talked about. If any of you had ever heard of adiponectin an hour ago, I'll be surprised because nobody ever talks about it. And this is the hormone that literally tells your body to burn fat for fuel. There's many studies have shown that the more adiponectin you have circulating in your bloodstream, the more likely you are to burn fat. If you move into keto circles, they're probably talking about adiponectin more than in just straight weight loss circles. When your body is inflamed, when insulin resistance is present, when cortisol levels are high, your levels of adiponectin will be considerably reduced. In other words, your body isn't going to be getting that signal to utilize fat as a source of fuel. The fat is there, but it's not being accessed. Your body wants to access it. Your body wants to access fat for fuel. We really need to look at our endocrine system. For any of you who are now looking to identify yourselves and put yourselves into one of these paths, do you think the hormone path could be one that you fit into? Do you need the spelling of adiponectin? Okay, I'll put it in for you. It will be in the show notes anyway. There you go. So I've put it up 3 times for you because it's gone onto all the different streams. So the adrenals, cortisol, your thyroid. You know, we didn't even talk about the fact that cortisol metabolizes triglycerides from storage and then releases them. That's one of the roles of cortisol. But when your adrenals are stressed and fatigued, it's not able to conduct that role. We haven't talked about the fact that cortisol, chronically elevated cortisol, has got a huge impact on appetite and cravings, particularly for high calorie processed foods. We haven't talked about that. We haven't God, there's so many things we haven't talked about. But hormones, that's bucket number 1. That's weight gain path number 1. Weight gain path number 2, we're going to talk about inflammation. Do you have excess chronically high inflammation in your body? Anyone eating a standard Western diet will have tons of inflammation in their body. When we think of inflammatory conditions, we think of things like autoimmune, rheumatoid arthritis, conditions like this that are like, they're known as being like lupus, known as being based in inflammation. Osteoarthritis. We have all got some degree of inflammation going on in our bodies. If you have got excess weight, you have definitely got lots of inflammation going on in your body. Inflammation is actually at the root cause of practically every chronic health condition. I'll talk about this a lot. Acidity, inflammation, and oxidative stress. Those 3 together are at the root cause of practically every degenerative disease we know of. Okay. Loads and loads of people are walking around with loads and loads of inflammation. They don't realize, because they haven't had a doctor or a physician or a consultant or someone say inflammation is your problem because you've got RA. So we don't address it. Inflammation is such a huge cause of weight gain. We talked about the gluten and how that triggers high blood sugars as much as sugar. We obviously talked about the sugar. We know about the sugar. Chronic acidity in your diet is also a huge cause of inflammation. So the fructose example is one that usually surprises a lot of people. When the liver processes fructose, so those folks that are going, hey, come have my green juice. Here's the recipe. It's 2 oranges, 3 apples, half a pineapple, and 1 spinach leaf. The amount of fructose is insane. Drinking it quickly all hits the liver all at once. The first thing the liver does is produce tons of inflammation and tons of uric acid. The liver is not created to be able to handle liquidized high concentrations of fructose. Now, again, that's not to say eating an apple is bad. When you eat fruit, you get the fiber, it slows down the metabolism of that fructose. You're eating it and chewing it, so it slows down the metabolism of fructose. Like comparing eating an apple to drinking the juice of 4 apples, right? Juice is gone in a minute, all onto the liver, creates loads of inflammation. When we've got lots of visceral fat, particularly visceral fat, not as much subcutaneous, but particularly visceral fat, the flood of inflammatory signals that these fat cells cause creates a vicious cycle. We're talking a lot about vicious cycles over this process, over these 3 lessons, but this is another one of them. Fat cells are little inflammation factories, but when there's elevated levels inflammatory markers, they're called cytokines, as any of you that have seen a doctor about inflammation will know. We know that elevated levels of cytokines have been able to accurately predict future weight gain. Research has shown that if you have got elevated cytokines, or you've been in or have a diagnosed inflammatory condition, so they know that you've got elevated levels of cytokine, people with those conditions are at a far, far, far higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Inflammation begins in the fat cells themselves, as we talked about, causing more fat cells to form, which then causes more inflammation. Inflammation of the brain, particularly the hypothalamus. This is where leptin resistance happens, when there's inflammation of the hypothalamus. Definitely not a good thing. Inflammation in the gut causes an increase in lipopolysaccharides, LPS, which is an endotoxin produced by bacteria. When we've got an overproduction of bad bacteria in the gut, it puts the gut balance out of whack, obviously. But when there's an increase in lipopolysaccharides, we're going to create more fat cells and not be able to utilize those fat cells. Inflammation has to be tamed. It's really, really simple to do that. I'm going to be showing you how in this series, in the next part of this lesson, in about 5 minutes. I'm going to give you some steps for it. But we have to get on top of inflammation. Guys, when you are eating processed foods like Dr. Atkins snack bars or Jenny Craig delivered meals, right? And I'm not saying that that's anything that you guys would be doing, by the way, absolutely, because I know that it's awful stuff. But the vast majority of the general public, these are the places they're turning to lose weight. The chemicals, the seed oils, the sweeteners, the artificial colors and flavors. And don't be fooled by natural colors and flavors. For those of you who don't know, I did used to work at a very large, very, very, very large beverage company. I know exactly what these natural flavors and colors are. The big food industry is smart. They're very good at working around things. And I can tell you now, they do just enough for a chemical to be called natural. It's not, it's the same as the other stuff. But yeah, when you're eating all of these foods that contain these toxins and they're ultra processed and natural flavors, artificial flavors, colors, sweeteners and terrible fats, you are flooding your body with inflammation. When you're eating an acidic diet, you are flooding your body with inflammation. When there is inflammation in your body, you are literally creating the environment where you are going to create fat cells, hold on to fat cells, and shut down the processes of things like your hypothalamus. You know, this is where I'm saying these weight gain paths, you might have more than one. They may overlap for you. Like we talked about, inflammation of the hypothalamus stops your body from being able to receive the leptin signals. It causes that leptin resistance. The hypothalamus also plays an important role in two axes, HPA and HPT. Hypothalamus, pituitary and adrenals, your HPA axis. Hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid, your HPT axis. These three organs, glands, in both of these axes are just unbelievably important to your overall health, but unbelievably important to your weight as well. You guys know if there's a thyroid imbalance, and I know that there's a bunch of you on here that have got a thyroid imbalance. This could be the primary cause of why your body is holding on to and creating fat cells. If you've got an adrenal imbalance, we've talked about, we've gone into depth, you know that that's not a good thing. Inflammation of the hypothalamus is knocking both of those out of whack. We have to get on to hypothalamus. I mean, to the inflammation. Just got distracted by a comment. Vida, is there a list of nutrient-dense alkaline foods that will eliminate inflammation and insulin resistance? There is. It's handy. It's convenient that you say that. Yes, I'm going to be providing you guys with all of this information in the show notes with the replay afterwards. Sherry, so there will be captions on the replay, yes. So this system that I'm using doesn't have the technology to do closed captions as I'm speaking because it is live. But yeah, on the replay, there will be closed captions. And the best bit about it is we're not going to go through and edit hours of captions. So there will be some hilarious mistakes in there. The system that I use uses machine learning to understand my accent, but it struggled because my accent is somewhere between English and Australian at times, and it struggles with it. So there is also always some hilarious sort of typo type things where it thinks I've said something, but I've actually said something completely different. You'll see. It's funnier than it sounds. So we just talked about lipopolysaccharides, and that does bring us on to the digestive causes of weight gain. Your digestive system is so important. So what I'll do, Sherry, is whoever can find the best one and put it into lesson 2, I'll have a bonus prize. So find out the best ridiculous one from lesson 1 and let us know in the chat in lesson 2 for a prize. It'll be a great prize. Digestion and weight. The bacterial imbalance caused by an acidic and inflammatory diet. I'm going to refer to my notes here because there's a few pronunciations that I can get a bit tongue-tied with at this time of the morning. So we know that an acidic diet causes bacterial imbalance. We know that it can cause SIBO, and we know that it disrupts digestion, it promotes inflammation, it's a contribution to metabolic dysfunction. And we know that an acidic diet causes all of this in the digestive system. And these imbalances in the digestive system are absolutely a cause of weight gain. And remember the link between the gut and the brain. They call the gut, well, some people call it the first brain. It's often referred to as the second brain. It interacts absolutely. So research has shown that there are distinct patterns of gut dysbiosis, so imbalance of bad bacteria to good bacteria. In people that are overweight and obese, there are particular distinct patterns of gut bacterial imbalance that we can see. Compared to people who are at what the researchers call a healthy weight, people who are overweight tend to have a reduced amount of bacteria DTs and an increase in Firmicutes. You don't need the spelling of these. Again, the studies will be in the show notes. This ratio of bacteria DTs to Firmicutes is associated with an increase in inflammation and a greater extraction of energy from food, which leads to elevated blood sugar levels, elevated fat levels that cause damage to the blood vessels, ultimately causing more inflammation. And both of these are markers associated strongly with being overweight and being obese. We've already talked about the gut being the second brain. About the adrenals and the thyroid and that HPA and that HPT axis. We literally were just talking about that. When there is gut imbalance or a lack of beneficial gut bacteria, imbalance across all of those axes and glands and organs occurs at an increased rate. So acetate is a short chain fatty acid produced by beneficial gut bacteria. A wonderful one called Akkermansia is one of the biggest producers of acetate. Research has shown that when it's produced in the microbiomes of the gut, it specifically travels to the hypothalamus and supports that appetite regulation. So when we're talking about the leptin, the ghrelin, the appetite regulation, beneficial gut bacteria is absolutely critical in making sure that that balance is in there and you're getting the right levels of leptin, the right levels of ghrelin. The good gut bacteria also stimulates hormones in the gut that can act as communication molecules, including in your gastrointestinal tract. And the research community, I love this research, but it's early days. So do not count on this as being factual yet. It appears that evidence is suggesting that this is the case, but there's gut bacteria, there's particular strains of gut bacteria that is being shown can influence your taste receptors. And we're not sure how, but it can send you hints about what you want to eat. You know, we talk about how we're more bacteria than we are human. Some of your food decisions may not be your own. There's these bacteria that are influencing your taste receptors and sending signals about what it is you want to eat. The early stage of research is suggesting, obviously, that having that well-balanced gut flora is going to be sending you signals to eat good, healthy foods. Whereas when there's an imbalance and there's bad gut bacteria, it's more so sending you towards sugar, basically. We're going to intersect with the fourth thing now, and we're going to talk about acidity again, because the fourth reason why digestive balance is so important is because of acidity. So when we're eating an acidic diet, now who here has heard there's no point eating alkaline foods because the stomach is acidic, and when those sort of foods drop into the stomach, it just is acidic? I'm bored of hearing that, but we hear it all the time, and I have to deal with questions on it every day. So here we are again. It's fine. So we do hear this a lot, don't we? The stomach's acidic, so what's the point in eating alkaline? Because when your food drops in, it turns okay, eat acidic then. I don't care. Have hot dogs every day. Pretzel wrapped hot dogs. I learned that from Jocko. Pretzel wrapped hot dogs. Double chip chocolate chip Belgian cookies. Who loves Jocko? Yeah, eat crap all day every day, then see what happens. That's fine. So the stomach isn't as acidic as people think. It isn't this big pit of acidity just waiting for food to drop in and fizzle away and disappear. Did I lose Martin? Martin, are you still there? You didn't answer my question. You disappeared. The stomach isn't acidic waiting for this just food to drop in and fizzle away and then it's gone. The stomach is only actually mildly acidic as we sit here not eating anything. As the food enters your mouth, you have got enzymes being produced in around your tongue, your salivary glands, your esophagus, preparing to something. Man, you're still there. Awesome, mate. I need just another guy on this call, surely. Stick with me, man. So your stomach is being sent the signals as what's coming and starts to prepare. Now, as this digestive process in your gut is largely a result of the production of hydrochloric acid, of course, yes, there is acidity, but also corresponding amounts of alkaline substances, mostly sodium bicarbonate and other carbonate, that will then neutralize the acidity. So the food drops in based on the signals that have been sent, the composition of the food, an amount of hydrochloric acid will be produced. Once the food is broken down, the next phase of digestion actually requires this broken down food, it's called chyme, to have a slightly alkaline pH. It matters. So you produce the sodium bicarbonate, it buffers the acidity, prepares it to pass into the duodenum and that next phase of digestion at a slightly alkaline pH of just over 7.0, so like 7.1, 7.2. This is essential when you are in a state of diet-induced acidity or a excess chronic dietary acid load, and you are eating loads of acidic food, you're eating, burgers and chips and sodas, your stomach, the food is coming in already acidic. The stomach is not getting the signal to produce the trigger to produce that sodium bicarbonate. There is the real risk, and it happens very frequently, that food is broken down into the chyme, passes into the duodenum. The pancreatic juices are then not properly triggered to be produced. It doesn't break down the food, and the enzymes aren't there as it passes into your small intestine. If your food is passing into the small intestine not properly broken down, not of the proper pH, not with the correct digestive enzymes being triggered, it cannot get broken down properly. In your small intestine is covered by all these little fingers. They're called microvilli that are all over the walls of your small intestine. This is when people are going, your small intestine is the size of, if you unraveled it, it would go from here to the moon and back. It's the size of 10 football pitches and 3 double-decker buses. When people are saying your small intestine, with all their weird analogies, is massive, that's because you've got all these fingers bubbling down off the walls of the small intestine that are increasing the surface area massively. These microvilli are responsible for squishing and smushing and squeezing that chyme, that digestive food, and extracting the nutrients from it. If your digestive system, your small intestine, has got all this poorly digestive chyme coming through, it smushes them down. It clogs up the walls of your small intestine. You get an impacted, blocked up small intestine that's not able to extract the nutrients from the food. If you're not extracting the nutrients from the food, weight gain is a very real possibility. When you've got this scenario as well, the increased chances of leaky gut, where the small tight junctures of the small intestine get opened and unprocessed foods and bacteria and things get back into the bloodstream, causing autoimmune, causing all sorts of other inflammatory explosions. That's also a contributor to weight gain. When you're eating lots of gluten, when gluten's broken down into its component proteins, gliadin and gluten, and a third protein gets formed called zonulin. Zonulin is shown to further increase the risk of leaky gut and cause those tight junctures to get opened up. When you've got lots and lots of undigested, poorly digested food just stuck in your small intestine, the chances of good bacteria proliferating are very, very small, and the chances of bad bacterial overgrowth are very, very large. You have to heal your digestive system. If this sounds like it could be your weight gain path, focus on your digestive system, focus on healing your digestive system, and your weight loss journey is going to become much, much simpler. Which leads us to our fourth weight gain path, which is something we've already touched on. Chronic dietary acid load. An acidic diet, too much acidity in your body. I've already given you many, many examples of how diet-induced acidity is going to cause your weight gain. We've talked about HIMPEX, the digestive system causes inflammation, causes all these hormonal imbalances, particularly with cortisol. There's millions of other examples I could give. We've talked about how when the liver gets impacted by all that fructose, it causes all the uric acid, which I'm sure someone listed gout earlier as one of their things. For all of you that said you've got reflux and GERD, I hope that last section supported you there as well. But another example of how diet-induced acidosis causes weight gain, your body will generate fat cells to protect visceral fat cells, specifically, not subcutaneous fat, but the visceral fat cells, particularly, it will create to bind up toxins and store them away from your vital organs. A huge, huge, huge percentage of these toxins are the acidic byproduct of your body buffering the acidity. When your body cannot buffer the acidity anymore and those exotoxins are still present in the body, your body will bind them up in fat and store them away from your vital organs, around your thighs, your butt, and your gut. It's paramount that you recognize that once you start to provide your body with lovely alkaline forming foods, so your body isn't having to do that buffering, within those lovely alkaline forming foods are lots and lots and lots of nutrients that are going to support your body. Think about the most alkaline forming foods: healthy fats, leafy greens, vegetables, salads, nuts and seeds. Those lower sugar fruits like blueberries and strawberries and grapefruits and lemons, limes, avocados. When we're providing the body with all these vegetables and antioxidant rich foods and, you know, powerful anti-inflammatories and all of this, and your body isn't having to buffer that pH, and all of these nutrients are getting disseminated around your body to be able to heal and rebalance, it makes sense that weight loss is going to become a lot easier. But without that buffering having to be done, all of those visceral fat cells that have been binding up those toxins, your body gets the signals that it can now release those. This is another little interesting thing. A lot of people, when they start on the Alkaline Life, I call it the Alkaline Life, upcoming book, early next year. I'll be emailing you about it to pre-order it in December. Don't forget to do that, every one of you. Let's make it bigger than the Alkaline Reset Cleanse. But one of the interesting things when people first start living alkaline, I don't like calling it the alkaline diet because the diet connotations I don't like. But when people start living alkaline, get to the point, Ross, they'll often test their pH. And I'm not a huge fan of testing your pH. If you do it right, if you do it in the right way, I'll try and remember to include that in the show notes as well. When you do it in the right way, it's a fine, interesting measure, but that's all it is. It's not really useful. Like if you're living alkaline and eating all these beautiful foods, you'll see how you look in the mirror. You'll see how bright the whites of your eyes are, how your clothes fit, how much energy you have, how well you're sleeping, all of that stuff. You don't really need a bit of litmus paper or whatever it is telling you, oh, it's slightly darker green today. It doesn't make any sense. But a lot of people get it wrong. They do it wrong and they also misinterpret the results. The point I'm getting to is a lot of people, when they first start, they'll see their pH drop and they'll go, what? What's going on? When you first start to flood your body with this abundance of nutrients, these beautiful alkaline forming foods, your body goes, oh, thank goodness. Right, I can get rid of all of that acidity now. It gets released by your body releasing the fat cells that are binding up those toxins. And it gets it out through your sweat, your skin, but also through your urine, your wee in the morning. So your body does all this detoxifying overnight while you sleep. You wake up in the morning, go for a pee. People test that pee, lovely. And they go, oh my gosh, it's more acidic. That's a good sign because that's your body getting going, oh, I've got the news, thank you. I get the signal. I can start releasing all of these toxins. And as you release those toxins, you will release a whole load of those visceral fat cells as well. So again, calories, who gives a monkeys about calories? What have calories got to do with it? All right. So just recapping where we're up to so far. Have you guys all got questions for the Q&A, by the way? I'm happy to answer all questions. We're nearly there. We've talked about the abundance mode and the starvation mode and how the big picture, whatever path it is you're taking, whatever route you're going to take, whether it's from listening to me or listening to someone else, you have to move from that starvation mode to that abundance mode. There's a reason your body has gained and held onto fat cells, and you have to identify it. You can't just go into calories, which we talked about next, and how ridiculous the notion of utilizing calories as your primary metric for weight loss is. Makes no sense, and it's not going to get you there. And now we've talked about the 4 weight gain paths: hormonal, inflammatory, digestive, and acidic. Identify which bucket you are in. Identify where you want to start. And I promised you I was going to give you a bit of an action to take away today, even if it's just a thought starter for you. And for some of you, like for all the Aussies, it might be too late, because this is for those of you in the UK, US, Northern Hemisphere, you can do it in the morning. Because what I want to talk to you is about starting the day right. In lesson 2, we're going to get into, or like, if today was the why, tomorrow we're going to get into the what and the how. So I'm going to be giving you all of my, what I call the weight loss activators, the steps and the step-by-step, so that you can build your plan and know what you're actually going to do. That's tomorrow. I'm going to give you one of them now, but that's what we're going to do. You're going to see my priority with all of this is to get you started, know your plan, and make those first few steps, that first week, so easy. And what we focus on in a lot of my training is what I call the 20-80. It's a bit like the 80-20, but it's sort of the other way around. So it's focusing on those 20% of actions that are going to get you 80% of your result. And then within those 20% of actions, picking the easiest to implement now for you to start with, so that you can start making steps forward. Really important. Start getting results quickly. Really important. So all of my work comes around the concept that getting you results quickly is essential, because results build confidence. Confidence builds motivation. Motivation builds momentum. Momentum builds action, which leads to more results. And it's just this beautiful circle of awesomeness. I should reference my friend Jeff, who came up with that term, circle of awesomeness. Getting started shouldn't be the hardest part. Getting started should be the easiest part. So this is what this is all about. It's based on, of course, you would have guessed, the Pareto principle, that in any given situation, pursuit, observation, 20% of the outcome, 80% of that outcome always comes from 20% or less of the inputs. He discovered it, I believe, in Italy and in Italy first. I think maybe in the UK first. Anyway, but then looked at it in all different other countries as well. He recognised that 80% or more of the wealth in any country was held by 20% or less of the individuals within that country, and it's now been extrapolated out to loads of different pursuits. Richard Koch has written many wonderful books on it, but when it comes to your health, it's even more apparent, and we see this all the time after time after time. You can get to 80% of your desired result by doing just 20% of the stuff. The trick here is to know what that 20% is, and then focus on that. And within that, in week 1, focus on the easiest bits. This is what I do in all of my coaching. When I work with people, we focus on that 20% first. We build a plan for week 1, and then we work together day by day, hand in hand, in that first week to really get those actions cemented in. And then over the next couple of weeks, we turn those actions into habits so that they become automatic. And then we build out the rest of the plan. It works so well. So I want to give you what one of these actions is likely for most of you if weight loss is your goal. Without stress, without overwhelm, without cravings, without pressure, this is going to really, really support you. And it's starting the day in the right way. This one is so, so important. So what I talked a little bit earlier, I touched on a little bit earlier, that interaction between cortisol being spiked first thing in the morning, and that's a good thing, with your rhythms throughout the day. So your circadian rhythm, which, ultimately your melatonin and your serotonin production, but also your insulin production, and a bunch of other hormones as well. When you start the day right with the right nutrients to kick off the day, you start with all of these cycles in the right place. If you don't start the day right, which is either an awful acidic, Western kind of breakfast, or no breakfast in a lot of instances, depending on your situation. We can talk about fasting in the Q&A if you like. We can talk about low carb in the Q&A as well. I think Mita asked about that earlier. When you start the day incorrectly, acidic, inflammatory, oxidative stress, nutrient poor, it flips your cortisol and insulin curves and a whole bunch of other things as well. But it means it puts you into a spiral where for the rest of the day, it's going to be really, really difficult, and willpower is going to be non-existent. So this is my start the day right, because it will make the rest of your day so much easier. And that's what is also my coaching is all about, is setting you up in a way that makes it as easy as possible for you. Like I said, it's the British way. We make it realistic and achievable. So I want you to do, step one, as soon as you wake up, fix your hydration. Get your hydration sorted. You want to be, I'll definitely talk about intermittent fasting, Martin. Definitely. You want to be getting hydrated the second you wake up. Wake up to the sink, big glass of water. Really important. When you are dehydrated, first thing for a prolonged period of time, it honestly has such a deep, deep impact on the rest of your day. People don't realize the impact it has. Think about it. You have been dehydrated for 8 hours. If you didn't have a glass of water for 8 hours, you would feel pretty dehydrated. I'm feeling, just thinking about it, I need to have a drink of water. That's better. So when you wake up, first thing, it can be your lemon water. I'll give you a recipe for like a super ramped up lemon water in the show notes. It could just be a glass of water. It could be a chilled herbal tea. I know a lot of my students like to have a batch of herbal tea in the fridge made, like a jug of herbal tea in the fridge made. It can be whatever you want, but get properly hydrated. We're talking at least like 350 milliliters. I don't know what that is in fluid ounces, but a big glass of water the second you wake up. That's the first thing you need to do. The second thing I want you to do then is get the stovetop on to be making one of my turmeric beverages. So either a turmeric latte or a turmeric tea. Again, I'll send you the recipes in the show notes. You don't need to worry about that. For any of you guys who are on here and haven't registered, here is the link to register and be notified when lessons 2 and 3 are going live, and also get the replays and the show notes and all of that stuff as well. Thank you, Martin. So about 12 ounces of water. So then get onto your turmeric tea or your turmeric latte. So in simple terms, if you want to make the turmeric latte, you just get like about 300 to 350 mils, so about 11 to 12 ounces of coconut milk, almond milk, whatever you want, in a small pan. Get that warming, and then I want you to get a centimetre of fresh turmeric, a centimetre of fresh ginger, and get it in there. Either chop it up or you can grate it in, it's up to you. Have that simmering for 4 to 5 minutes. When that's getting to a close with the turmeric latte, you can get in some cinnamon, you could get in some nutmeg, you could get in some other spices, whatever you need. Get that simmering up, simmering up, simmering up. Once it's simmered for 4 to 5 minutes, get it into a blender, blend it all up, add in some coconut oil, and you're away. Delicious turmeric. Add in the coconut oil before you blend it. Or you could use MCT oil too if you are intolerant to coconut. With the turmeric tea, you do the same, except you don't use milks, you use water, obviously, filtered water. Simmer it all up. After 4 to 5 minutes, squeeze in a bit of lemon or lime, strain it, or I like to just have the turmeric in there and I sort of eat it as I've finished the tea. Same, you're away. So step 1, hydrate. Step 2, a turmeric tea or turmeric latte. The benefits of the turmeric latte is, of course, you can get the healthy fats in there. The benefits of the turmeric tea is it's a bit lighter and more refreshing first thing in the morning. Yes, Martin. So that's an important distinction. Have unsweetened and as natural and as few ingredients as possible in your coconut or almond milk. So in Australia, we have brands like Nature's Way, and what's the other one? I can't remember the name of the other one now, but there's a bunch of them that the ingredients are basically coconut and water. And that's basically all you need in there. Maybe a natural kind of stabilizer like an oil or something like that, preservative that's natural. But you don't want to get like, there's some brands like Sanitarium in Australia. Who is it in UK? They're called So Good or something. They were one of the original big soy milk brands. And you look at the back of the packet and there's like 18 ingredients in there. It's like, they don't need to be in there. They don't need to be in there. It literally can just be coconut and water, almonds and water. That's it. So that's step 2. Step 3 is to have a nutrient-dense breakfast. Fix your breakfast. So there's 4 rules of a fantastic breakfast. Again, they'll be in the show notes. You don't need to write them down. Eat one rule. Rule 1, I want you to eat within approximately half an hour of waking up. Don't leave it too long. Get those nutrients in, get your metabolism going, get your body firing. Rule 2, get a little bit of protein in the meal. This has been shown in studies to really, really increase weight loss, even if it's all you do. It supports it. It causes the metabolism and processes in the bodies to start to shed those visceral fat cells. You don't need loads and loads and loads, but aim for at least sort of 7 to 10 grams of protein in that meal. Rule 3, getting fiber in there. Any combination of soluble, insoluble, resistant starch. And rule 4, include the healthy fats like coconut oil, flax oil, olive oil, avocado oil, or whatever. Those 4 rules for breakfast for your first few weeks will be fantastic. After a few weeks, you can start to mix up your breakfasts, but go for something consistent for this first week to get yourself started. Don't try and have something different every day. Go for some consistency. So I will send a recipe out to you guys, but one that I'm loving at the minute. I included it as my recipe for the weekend for my subscribers the other day, but it's just basically some broccoli or broccolini, some cauliflower, just all chopped up small, with some black beans, tomatoes, spinach, kale, garlic, quinoa. So you just quickly cook up those veggies. You get your quinoa cooking, you cook up the veggies in a little bit of coconut oil. The leafy greens are just absolutely fantastic. The spinach and the kale and the garlic and all that. You dress it with just some olive oil or some flax oil, some lemon, a little bit of salt and pepper. It's absolutely fantastic, and it takes like 5 minutes. It takes no time at all to make that. It's warm, it's delicious. You start the day feeling like you've done something absolutely phenomenal for yourself. And it just includes all of those nutrients that you need. It's really, really fantastic. Even if just for a few days you commit to doing the hydration and the turmeric, even if just for a few days you commit to doing just the hydration and the breakfast, even if just for a few days you commit to just the hydration, just getting started is so important, and it makes a huge difference. Who can do that? Who can commit to just getting started with one of those steps? The hydration is so important for weight loss. You have to follow hydration steps. Tomorrow I'm going to be giving you loads of info and tips on that, because I know a lot of people actually struggle with hydration. Seems like one of the simplest things, but it's also one of the most challenging for a lot of people. The turmeric is the most powerful anti-inflammatory on earth, combined with the ginger. Unbelievable anti-inflammatory power, anti-carcinogenic, defeats oxidative stress, super alkaline, so fantastic. With the turmeric latte, you're also getting those amazing, abundant, healthy fats that are going to support your cognition, support the hypothalamus, support the adrenals and the thyroid, that are going to get that metabolism going, that are going to heal your digestive system, that are going to support your liver and kidneys. The leafy greens are obviously absolutely packed with alkalinity and nutrients that are so important for buffering that acidity, like zinc and magnesium and iron and calcium and all those other things, but also are really, really healing to your digestive system, your endocrine system, your immune system, and your detoxification system. The quinoa has got that protein that's just fantastic, the healthy fats from the dressing and the coat. It's honestly, guys, try this, start this. and I'm going to answer that question about the turmeric as we get into the Q&A. I'll answer all of this about the turmeric, the ginger, the pepper, the powder, all of that as question 1. There you go. And Mita, I won't forget. This is the end of lesson 1, guys. We've come to the end of lesson 1 and we're getting into the Q&A now. So I've just loved your enthusiasm. It's been amazing. And I'm so happy that I'm able to support you guys in this way. And I can't wait for lesson 2 because it's going to be really, really actionable. And there's going to be tons of those 2080 steps that you can take for week 1. Tons of them. So how are we feeling out there? Who's still energized? Who's still pumped? We're going into the Q&A now. I'm just going to switch off the camera for 3 seconds while I just have a big drink, set myself up, switch off all the distractions I don't need, look through the comments and get ready for the Q&A. Let's just have a 1-minute break and we'll be back at 46 past the hour and we'll get into a question. So get your questions into the chat box while we're on this little break. 1 moment. Alrighty. I'm glad you think this is great, Terry. And I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the session so far. I'm just making sure that the comments are all working fine. So while I do that, I'm going to answer the question about turmeric and ginger because I can answer that with half of my brain. So what a lot of people get hung up on when it comes to turmeric is this black pepper concept. Now, I'm not going to tell you here that you shouldn't have black pepper with your turmeric. You can if you want. There could be some efficacy to the concept that black pepper increases the absorption. You know, why not? Sure. And the thing is that a lot of the recipes where you would have turmeric in, like stews or soups or curries or whatever, you would put black pepper in anyway. However, there is an element of the myth to this because there was one study done a long time ago, I think early 2000s, maybe late 90s, I think it was early 2000. Stacey, you came in real late. That's all good. The turmeric study, yes. But it was conducted in isolation. So it was conducted by a supplement company who at the time were looking to try and patent, including piperine, which is that extract from black pepper, in with their turmeric supplement. The study was showing that it increased the bioavailability by to 2 billion%. I think they're even saying like 3,000 times more absorbable. And Look, what I would say is that turmeric is probably one of the most studied foods on earth for its anti-inflammatory and anti-carcinogenic potency. It's been studied a lot, and it's the results of the studies are always really, really positive and really enthusing, I guess is the word I was looking for there. Having been in the research community myself, I can tell you now, full disclosure, I haven't ever worked specifically in the lab of a medical researcher, but I have been in the academic world doing studies. And what I can tell you is, when you're doing a study, if you think there's a way to ethically enhance the results of your study in whatever direction, you will take it, because the bigger and better the results of your study, the better publishing you will get, and the better funding you will get on future grants, and the more popularity and ego stroking you will get. So researchers would always be looking to increase the results of their studies if they could. If you were researching how effective is turmeric for inflammation compared to something else, and you wanted the turmeric to be you wanted to get a good wide variety of results, a big gap between your control group and your study group of the turmeric, you'd use the piperine, you would use the black pepper to enhance those results. And the fact that I'm yet to see a single turmeric curcumin study in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies use piperine as part of their study group just suggests to you that the difference, it doesn't make much of an impact. The fact that this study was published so long ago, over 20 years ago, and there haven't been follow-up studies, suggests to you that the study design of that original study was nonsense, and it isn't necessarily true. So look, I'm not going to say there's no impact. I'm not going to say don't do it. Do it if you want, but do not get bogged down in the minutiae. One of the things that stops momentum, that stops people taking action, that stops them getting to the end of that first week, and then the second week is so much easier if you get to the end of the first week, like it builds that momentum. One of the things that stops people from doing that is getting bogged down in too many steps, too much detail. So don't stress about it. Do it if you want. You don't have to do it if you don't want. It's absolutely fine. That's the pepper. The one around the powdered, whether powdered is a problem. Let me just refresh something here. 1 second. Yes, good. So with powdered, you can use powdered turmeric and ginger where you can't find fresh, but honestly, it's hard to not find fresh. Like, you can get fresh turmeric and ginger on Amazon these days. Ideally, obviously, of course, you're getting organic, but if you can't get organic, don't stress about not getting organic. It's fine. It's still better to have it than not. But powdered, please, please, please get organic. Derek, how are you, mate? You've popped up via YouTube. That's random. How are you, my friend? So I hope what you newish people are seeing as you come onto this is that I've got people here with me like Derek and like Julie, you've been with me for ages, and Regina and Meredith and gosh, so many of you that I can't even mention. These people that have been with me for ages, and we just become friends. We're good friends. So Darlene and loads of you that are on this session. So come into my world. If you're new to my world, come on into it, because it's a fun place to be, and we're one big happy family. What was I saying? Powdered. Yeah, so powdered herbs and spices will go through this process called iridation, which is basically designed to make them have the shelf life of a millennia. Like, I know myself growing up, and I think they're a bit better with it now, but it still tickles me when I do go to my parents' house all the way back in England and I look in their herbs and spices rack, and there's things that's like expiry date 1982 or whatever. But you will have seen it, like if you get normal non-organic herbs and spices, the expiry date is like 1,000 years in the future, and it's because they've gone through this process called iridation, which basically it kills all the bacteria in the powder, but it kills everything. It makes that completely useless. from a nutritional perspective. So if you are going to get powdered, please, please, please get organic. Please get organic. All right. Will this work for people with PCOS? Yes, I've had loads of people with PCOS get really good results, particularly if weight is one of their results as well. All right, I'm going to scroll back up and see if I can get to the very start of the questions. So I have non-alcoholic fatty liver, and my doctor told me turmeric is bad for my liver. I was stunned as I've been using it ever since I found you. Any thoughts on this? Hey, Kathy. Look, what I would preface all of the Q&A with is, if your physician who is consulting with you in person is telling you to do something, I can't tell you not to do it the same, because they've obviously got access to all of your history, everything that's going on now. They've got that. All I've got access to is your question. However, what I always say with people when they're saying, I'm on a certain medication, or I'm concerned that, you know, for instance, if I've got ITP, thrombocytopenia, should I be having things like turmeric? My points are always: one, do what your doctor tells you. Two, if you are concerned about your doctor's advice, get a different doctor and find one that's nutritionally aware. Three, supplements are very different to the food in their natural makeup. So don't use a curcumin supplement. Get your turmeric fresh. That way you're way, way, way more likely to have it at a therapeutic but not ridiculous amount of dosage. And four, double check everything with your medical team before you make any dietary changes, of course. However, turmeric, no known studies that it negatively impacts the liver. Lots of studies to show that chronic inflammation is terrible for the liver. If you are concerned about the turmeric, there are other anti-inflammatory foods you could use, like ginger, like leafy greens, like bell pepper, like asparagus, and all those types of things. Garlic. Let's have a look. Right. Does brown rice syrup do the same thing in the body that sugar does? No. So the reason that I recommend, and we'll talk a lot about sugars tomorrow, but the reason that I recommend brown rice syrup, which is also known as rice malt syrup, I find saying that sentence so hard, and I have to say it a lot. Brown rice syrup and rice malt syrup. The reason why I recommend that, which is the same thing, they are the same thing, just some countries call them different things, but they're the same thing, is because it doesn't contain any fructose. All other sugars are metabolized all over the body. Only the liver can metabolize fructose. So sucrose is a combination of glucose and fructose. All syrups, maple syrup, honey, molasses, agave syrup, everything else, are a combination of glucose and fructose. So those natural sugars are not going to be any better for what we're talking about than normal sugar. They may be less processed, but they still contain 40–50% fructose in the case of agave syrup, 90% fructose in the case of high fructose corn syrup, 100% fructose. So brown rice syrup or that one doesn't contain the fructose. It's not alkaline forming by any stretch of the imagination. It's still acid forming, but it's better. Best is not to use it. Better is to use that. Worse is to use high fructose corn syrup or agave syrup. But it still has an acidic impact. It's just much, much less impactful. So are warm drinks better to start the thing in the morning, thinking hot lemon? Look, I was one of the first people to have a page on Google talking about warm lemon water in the morning. Believe me, back in the day, I think I ranked number 1 or 2 on all of Google for lemon water. I definitely don't now. It will be like, you know, Amazon, the Wall Street Journal, the BBC, Wikipedia. But it was good times for a while back there. So I've been talking about lemon water for a real long time. And what I would say about lemon water is, if you enjoy it, use it. The lemon, people talk about, the benefits of the lemon. And the warmth. Oh yeah, the warmth is really good, and all this stuff. Ultimately, people talk about the lemons because it's slightly alkaline for us. It's not. I mean, it's not. It's just that the benefits you're getting from that squeeze of lemon are very negligible. The benefits that you're getting from the warmth of it are extremely negligible. What I find is it's enjoyable first thing in the morning to have a warm, slightly flavored drink instead of just cold, plain water. And if it's going to make it so that it's enjoyable, your brain's going to connect to it and you're going to do it. Something else that I include in my programs. Is what I have built, which is my habit framework. Standing on the shoulders of giants. Lots of incredible behavioral psychologists that I have studied and implemented and spoken with and spent time with and love. I've tried to distill down into a way that works for the things I teach. So the habit framework, which is folded into a lot of what I'm going to be teaching you, particularly tomorrow's lesson. But you just, to keep it big picture for now, if the lemon water being warm makes it more enjoyable for you, then you are much more likely to form it into a habit. If it is distinctive, so it's slightly different to your brain of going, I need to drink some water in the morning. If you're going in there and making a mini recipe, even if it's as simple as warm water and lemon, it's just slightly distinct from going the everyday glass of water. It will make it more likely to form into a habit. There's a bunch of stuff folded into there. But does it have to be hot? No. Does it have to be lemon? No. Don't worry about that. All right, Lorna, that was your question. Christine, my pleasure. Regina, can you talk about caffeine? I can talk about caffeine. So there's a few things with caffeine. Firstly, the most important thing, I guess, is we don't want to stress the adrenals, do we? And caffeine does that. So ideally, you want to be tapering off and moving away from having lots of caffeine, particularly first thing in the morning. And we'll get into this when we talk about sleep tomorrow. But for those of you that are interested in sleep, I'll touch on it a little bit now. But one of the steps is people often talk about, don't have caffeine after, say, 2 p.m. because the cortisol and the adrenaline impact of that will make it difficult to get to sleep. Just as important is not to have caffeine within 30 to 45 minutes of waking. And the reason for that is you want to allow your body to naturally have that cortisol boost. You don't want to artificially stimulate it. Because if you artificially stimulate the cortisol first thing in the morning, your body will register that the cortisol's there and it won't do the work to lift it itself. The cortisol spike from caffeine drops off quickly, real quick, and then you will be left very low cortisol first thing in the morning, where you want your cortisol to be high first thing in the morning to, like I said, wake up all these processes and get the body going. So your body will start to create cortisol. You get up and have caffeine straight away. Your body stops making it and it goes like that. And then you're stuck down here. So in terms of sleep, what you do at the start of the day is just as important as what you do at the end of the day, and holding off on that caffeine for the first 45 minutes in the morning or longer, ideally, is really important. So caffeine is acid forming. It's cortisol elevating, and therefore it's not a great idea. However, you can get away with having a bit. It's not the worst thing in the world. There are obviously, in good high quality coffee, there are antioxidants, particularly good for cognition, for brain health. So there's pros and cons. It's, I guess, a bit like there's polyphenols, flavonoids in red wine and dark chocolate. So yeah, no, they're acidic, but they've got these other bits. It doesn't mean have a bottle of wine a night, but it doesn't mean you can never have it. But you should be looking to not have it constantly all day, every day. Green tea has got less caffeine than coffee. If you're going to be looking for something along those lines, I would recommend matcha. So matcha, naturally, again, from a good source. Matcha.com is a good source. There's others. Peak is good quality as well. Matcha contains L-theanine, which is a naturally occurring compound that attenuates some of the impact of the caffeine. So this is why if you're drinking good quality matcha, you can feel that alertness, but you don't get that jitteriness. So it just tapers off the cortisol impact. Any other questions around caffeine? Put them in chat box. So Jody has talked about distilled water. Julie has talked about having a little nugget of salt in there, and to see if there's any other hydration questions, because I can answer them all at once. All right, so hydration. Distilled water is definitely not my favorite. I wouldn't drink it at all, let alone, as Jody has asked, drinking it all the time. I wouldn't drink it at all. So there's a giant rabbit hole around hydration opening up here. So I'm just checking the comments on YouTube again, see if anyone else has jumped on there. Giant rabbit hole around hydration. Interesting. How deep do I go on this? So ultimately, you need to be properly hydrated. That's really important. The type of water. To keep it really simple now, what you want to avoid is reverse osmosis and distilled. Reverse osmosis is fixable. Distilled is not fixable. Reverse osmosis, after your machine, under your sink, you would have a piece of plastic tubing that's gone into a quick connect fitting that goes then up into another quick connect fitting into your tap. So when you turn your tap on, the reverse osmosis water comes out. All you do, you got that plastic tube, you snip it, you get what's called a remineralization filter or remineralization canister, and you plug one end into the end of there and the other end into the end of there, and then what will come out with your reverse osmosis through the mineral canister and then into the tap. That fixes it. Distilled and reverse osmosis are hyper filtered, but they're hyper filtered of everything. So what it turns into is water that is mildly acid forming to the body and that causes oxidative stress. You do not want that. By remineralizing the reverse osmosis, you attenuate that issue and it stops being acid forming and oxidative stress causing. It doesn't make it alkaline or anything like that, despite what some of these filters will say, but it's okay again. Where I would say at the other end of the spectrum, the ideal that you would want to have would be an ionizer. As you guys know, I love the Chanson company, run by Nedley in Kentucky. So she's moved from Laguna Hills a few years ago, and I keep, where did she go? Kentucky. I'm not as such a retailer as such, but they do let me sell at a discount to my subscribers. So if any of you want an ionizer or want to know more about an ionizer, just get in touch with me and I can help you out with that. But they are expensive. They're at the higher end of the thing. Where I would say everyone should start is with filtration. Filtration is a must. Filtration is a must. Similar with the organic thing, I would rather you drink tap water than be dehydrated. I would rather you eat vegetables that are non-organic than not eat vegetables. But getting filtration sorted is a must. Just even getting a simple countertop filter jug. I can send you some links to the ones that I think are half decent. Or getting a under sink 3-stage filter. Chanson do one of those as well. I can probably get you a discount on those if you're interested in those. But getting your filtration sorted is a must. We can go into untold amounts of depth about alkaline water and on ice water and all of that. If you do want to get an ionizer, email me. You guys know my email address, right? I'll put it in just in case, because I know there are some new people on here. There we go. This is top viewing this, watching me type in. All right, there you go. Bing, bing, bing. That should come up on all of them. Yep, there we go. Cool. All right. What was the other question? Oh, yeah. Is adding a nugget of Himalayan pink salt to your water a good idea. Yeah, sure. The volumes, the dozens and dozens of trace minerals in Himalayan pink salt, good for you. But people go, oh, but doesn't salt give you high blood pressure? Sodium chloride contributes to high blood pressure. The biggest impact of salt on the cardiovascular system, risk of heart disease and all those types of things, is actually the ratio of consumption of potassium to sodium. So for most people eating processed foods that contain super high amounts of sodium chloride, they're having this much salt and this much potassium. But if you're eating a good alkaline diet and using like mineral salts, Himalayan salt, Celtic sea salt, those types of things, the concentration of actual sodium chloride compared to the other salts in there, plus you're getting all the potassium from the lovely greens and alkaline foods, so you're balancing up and you're not getting that ridiculous. It's supposed to be like much closer to 1-to-1, but for most people eating a sort of standard processed food kind of diet, it's more like 20 to 30 times the sodium chloride than it is to the potassium. And potassium is a hard one because you can't supplement potassium. It's got a really low upper tolerable limit that would be impossible to reach through just eating foods. But if it were in a supplement, the outcomes of overdosing on potassium are not great. So it's been regulated, so you can only get like small amounts of potassium in supplement format. Interesting fact. I think. You may not think so. All right, where are we up to? So Stacey, who are after a little bit late. That's all good. Stacey, did you register as well? I know you're watching through Facebook Live. Did you register? Make sure you register. I'll give you the link again so that you can get the show notes and lessons 2 and 3 and all of that stuff. So Stacey has asked, I heard you talking about turmeric tea and latte. What about juicing the turmeric and ginger and drinking it as a fresh juice? Yes, I'll be talking about this a lot tomorrow in some of the steps, but adding turmeric and ginger to your juice is a brilliant way of getting it every day, and that's the way I love to do it. All right, let's talk about fasting, because Barbara has asked about it here, and a couple of people asked about it earlier as well. So I'm going to quickly, before I do, just cover off some of these questions that are really quick little ones. Is sea salt okay? Yep. You can have iodine in your salt as long as the salt is natural salt, not sodium chloride. Iodine for your thyroid is wildly overstated as the most important thing. It's very, 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 very rare for anyone in a developed country to have iodine deficiency, but feel free to do that if you want to as well. It won't hurt to have a little bit extra, but it's absolutely not the most important thing. Barbara's asked, what about Splenda? I would rather you eat tubs of margarine than eat Splenda. If that tells you anything, absolutely please no to the Splenda. Any other quick ones? What is the discount for ionized water? Derek, if you want to get a chance, and it's basically about $500 off if I ask Chanson really nicely. Am I still a fan of Berkey water filters? I've never particularly been a fan of Berkey water filters. They're fine, but I've never really recommended them. And that's the quick questions. All right, let's talk about fasting. So when we talk about intermittent fasting, I'm generally going to be speaking about like 16-8 or, 12-12 or 14-10, like daily having a fasting window and an eating window for when we talk about intermittent fasting. So you don't eat for ages and ages, and then you eat within this 6-hour window or this 4-hour window or whatever, and then you don't eat again until tomorrow's window comes around. Just to be clear, when I'm talking about intermittent fasting in the context of this question, that's the type I'm talking about, because there's also not eating for 2 days, eating for 5 days. There's also doing a week-long fast or a 2-week fast or all that sort of stuff. So intermittent fasting is a lifestyle. What I would preface this by saying is, if it works for you, do it. That's fine. Go for it. If it works for you, go for it. Sorry, just got slightly distracted by something. However, doing it within the concept and within the framework of living alkaline still. So one of the problems that we have with intermittent fasting is the compliance with good quality nutrient dense food. So a lot of people will slip their importance 100% into the logistics of fasting and 0% into the quality of food that they're eating. So there's a risk there. There's a potential slip up there. So they'll go, all of the benefits, maybe subconsciously, not necessarily consciously, all of the benefits I'm getting from fasting, that's the most important thing. So when my window comes along and I'm absolutely starving, I can eat whatever I want, or I deserve a treat. I've done so well to get to my window, I deserve a treat, or and they end up piling all of this crap food into their window. Compliance generally is an issue with it. A lot of people can't stick to it and don't want to stick to it. I think it was Martin, I think you said earlier that fasting just isn't for you, and that's totally fine. The longer term dietary studies have shown that the net benefits on things like C-reactive protein, triglycerides and cholesterols and all of the sort of blood markers with intermittent fasting are over a longer period of time no different to people that stick compliantly to a ketogenic diet or a DASH diet or Mediterranean diet. In the research, in the sort of study world, when they compare dietary approaches over a sort of long term, but when it's like a case controlled or they're actually studying subjects. So I'm digressing a little bit here, but a lot of the dietary studies that look into particular nutrients will be retrospective or meta-analyses. So they're looking at past papers. In the case of meta-analyses, retrospective studies, they'll be looking at cohorts from studies that have been done before, and they'll be picking out particular variables from those. When you're actually looking at, we had usually in the hundreds, let's say 274 subjects, and we split them into 3 groups. Some people ate whatever they wanted, some ate this type of diet and this type of diet. When they look at a healthy diet, they tend to use a Mediterranean style diet that's high in fruits and vegetables, basically. That's what I'm saying. So, as I'm saying, when they look at these studies that look at fasting versus keto versus a Mediterranean style diet, they tend to find that the fasting group doesn't get any better or worse results than the other groups over the sort of medium to long term. One of the lookouts and issues that I have with fasting for an older person, an older being my age or older, I'm certainly not here thinking I'm a whippersnipper and everyone else is old. Me or older is the older you get, fasting can lead to muscle loss of muscle mass, which loss of muscle mass as you progress through the decades and get into late 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond. A lack of muscle mass is strongly correlated with all-cause mortality. And obviously, as you're in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s, the older you get, the harder it is to regain muscle mass. So it's just a bit of a slippery slope that I'm not super comfortable with, because fasting is correlated with a loss of muscle mass in older people as well. So that's just another thing to be aware of. And also it depends on your goals. Like if the goal is purely weight loss, then the data does suggest that a 16-8 can lead to weight loss results. We're not sure. The data doesn't say if that's because of calorie deficit or another mechanism going on in the body. So if it's a calorie deficit, we already know that that's not going to be sustainable, and it's simply you've lowered your calories in, so your calories out is going to lower as well. But for the mitochondrial sort of autophagy benefits, you have to be getting to 18:6, like an 18-hour fasting window at a minimum. So then you're going, why am I doing this? And am I committed enough to go for only having a 6-hour eating window each day? Or are we doing it because it's not for the specific benefits of the fasting, but just because I find it easier to stay on track that way? And I'm totally down with that if that's what you want to do. Some people are just like, I don't want to eat first thing in the morning, or I don't want to eat late at night, and I'm happy for my eating window to be between 7 in the morning and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm cool with that and it works for me. Go for it, no problem. However, fasting for me, still fairly early days with the research, it isn't showing really a significant benefit. It's a different conversation to talk about the longer term fasts or the the more intense fasting, but that's a whole other world of medical supervision and really carefully planned execution. But for the daily fasting, there's no compelling evidence, and there's lots of potential pitfalls. However, if it works for you, that's cool as well. All right. Okay. What about herbal tea in the morning? Absolutely fine. And right, we've got here, just briefly, why wouldn't you touch distilled water? I thought I'd mentioned it, but maybe I started to talk about it and then got distracted and talked about something else. But yes, so distilled water removes everything from the water, including all of the beneficial minerals and tiny little micronutrients. And because of that, because it's just a liquid devoid of those minerals, it becomes mildly acid forming and mildly causing of oxidative stress. So we do not want that. And water, the thing is with water, if that was just a meal you have every few days or once a week or whatever, it doesn't really make that much of an impact. But water is the substance, apart from air, water is the substance that you put into your body more than anything else. So it amplifies the importance to be careful around those specifics. So I better have some water. Yes, and yes, Sandra and Berin. So yeah, filtration, as I was saying before, you maybe missed that bit, is the most important place to start. That's the area I would start with first. So I will send you some suggestions for filtration in the future, in the show notes in the future. What to eat when traveling, asks Barbara. So Barbara, where are you going? No, Barbara, what to eat when traveling? Sorry. So when traveling, it's really, really important to just stick with the core most important pillars of living alkaline, which are basically hydration, greens, healthy fats, and those anti-inflammatories. If you can stick with those, this will be like a maintenance period for you while you're traveling. And of course, it would depend where you're traveling. It would depend how long you're traveling for. I do have guides and stuff that I've created for my members and my students all around eating while traveling. But the basics of it are to have portable snacks that you can consume. So I always travel with a big nut and seed mix. I always take either coconut oil or MCT oil with me, and fresh or powdered turmeric and ginger. And a small blender, like a travel blender, so I can always make my turmeric latte in the morning. If I'm close to a grocery store, I can always get avocado and cucumber and spinach, even if it's just that with some, and I mix it with water. That would be a smoothie that I can have. If there's coconut milk or coconut water there, that can make it a little bit more tasty. So those are my three that I always take. I always take a green powder supplement with me, an alkaline mineral supplement with me, and a healthy fats supplement, and my curcumin supplement. So those four supplements mean I'm always going to be hitting the greens, the alkaline minerals, the healthy fats, and the anti-inflammatories, and make sure that the hydration is on point as well. If you can do that, if you can just take that little blender, take your nuts and seeds for your snacks. I often, this is going to sound really geeky as well, but it's a good one. I also often travel with a little container of chia seeds. And if I think I'm going to be remote and not able to get to the shops, I take a carton of coconut milk with me or some tins of coconut cream so that I can make up a little chia pot of just mixing the coconut milk in with chia seeds, stirring it and leaving it for 20 minutes, and then yum, delicious. So again, that's a great source of the healthy fiber, but a really great source of the healthy fats, and it's a really good healthy snack. When you're eating out, try not to stress. Just order a side salad every time you go anywhere. Try to make one of your main meals a day, whether it's lunch or dinner, a big salad with some healthy fats and stuff like that with it. And try not to be too stressed when you're traveling. Just stick to those core things. Stick to the stuff that you can stay in control of, and release any stress around things that are out of your control. I hope that helps. All right. We're getting close to the end of the questions. Are there any other questions that are going to come in? So tomorrow's lesson, same time, same place, different t-shirt. I will probably have had a haircut. That's on the agenda for today. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the weight loss activators. We're going to be talking about sleep. We're going to be talking about supplements. Those weight loss activators are the most important 20-80 steps that you can start doing now. And I'm going to tell you how to implement them so that you can start to unravel that weight gain path, whether that was hormonal, acidic, inflammatory, digestive. Tomorrow, we're going to get into the actual steps, that action plan, the how to. So it's really, really important that you come tomorrow. If you can't make all of the session, don't worry, as long as you've registered. You will get the replays and the show notes and the links. We will have another Q&A session tomorrow as well. Lesson 3 is going to be so much fun. I don't want to reveal too much about it, but let's just say we're going to be getting into the real nitty gritty and the nuts and bolts of it. Someone has just mentioned students discount weight loss program. I am going to be looking at, I'm going to cut to the chase. I am going to be putting out there a highly individualized, personalized 8-week weight loss deep dive to a very, very small group of people. And I'm going to be opening up the doors for that after lesson 3. I can't promise how many spots there will be available because I have made early doors spots available to my members of my Alkaline Base Camp. What I would say, I wasn't planning on talking about this now, but Sandra keeps mentioning it, so I feel like I have to. Thanks, Sandra. What I will say is here is a link where you can, I wasn't going to put this out until lesson 3, but here is a link. I'm just getting it now, so my eyes are darting around a bit, where you can register to get access to it early, like a couple of hours before I open the doors up to the public. Sandra, honestly, no problem. I didn't tell you not to. So if you want to get onto the list to get early access to that, we're talking at this stage, I'm only going to be working with about 40 people. That's honestly not many. And my members are rapidly taking up those spots. Honestly, Sandra, it's no problem. It's probably for the best. It makes it look really natural, doesn't it? It makes it look like, no, I know, and I genuinely wasn't going to send that link out until lesson 3. But you guys, 67 of you are still here after 2 hours and 27 minutes. So that's pretty incredible. I'm looking at the stats now. We've had many, many hundreds of people on this. So you guys are the last ones still here. So don't tell anyone. I might actually edit this. I'm going to edit this bit out of the replay. And I forgot that the people on the replay probably won't be able to see the the comments coming along. So, the people on Facebook will. All right. Okay. All right. I might edit this bit out of the replay anyway. So there's not that many of you still left on the call. So this is secret between us. I'm not going to mention it again now until the end of lesson 3. So don't tell anyone. So honestly, this is legit. But if you want to get one of those 40 spots, and there's actually not many of them left anyway, get on that wait list. Click that button and get on that wait list. It's not a commitment that you have to join, but you might as well, if you do want to join, get a couple of hours advance notice on everyone else. Anyway, so that bit will all get edited out. That will all get edited out. So bottom line is, tomorrow we're going to be making the action plan. We're going to be going through what those actions are to implement, and then Tuesday, Wednesday for me, Tuesday for you guys, we're going to be getting really, honestly, I don't want to reveal too much about what we're going to be doing on the third lesson, but it's really, it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be fantastic. And there's going to be an element of jeopardy to it for me as well, because there's going to be some unknowns, but it's going to be great fun. All right. So that wraps it up. 2.5 hours. That's not bad going. That's not bad going. I'm really thrilled for you guys who have stuck for that extra little bit of information at the end. And for all of you guys, everyone that's watching the replay, thank you for coming back to check it out. For all of you guys who have been here, even just for a little part of this, thank you so much for checking it out. For all of you who have been here for the whole 2.5 hours, absolutely rocking. Thank you so much. I love you. My gratitude is through the roof. My heart explodes. I genuinely mean it. I get chills down my back when I think about how grateful I am for you guys. You're just fantastic. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Martin. And thank you, Derek, Aisha, Sandra, all of you that have been on this whole time. You rock. And that concludes lesson 1. We're going to be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Someone asked what time zone central. I've no idea. Judy, what I would recommend is a website called www.worldtimebuddy.com. Pam, thank you. Catherine, Guylaine, you guys. Worldtimebuddy.com is what I use, and believe me, I find it hard to juggle all these time zones. Darlene, I did wonder if you've been here the whole time. You've been very quiet today. Thank you for sticking with me the whole time, Darlene. I appreciate you massively. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are. I'm off now for my Kung Fu lesson, so I will see you guys all tomorrow. Take care, guys. See ya.